Okay, guys, this glass is interesting. Might look like I have a weird drink in here, but in fact I do not. And if you look closely, I have gold in here. Now, what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks is collecting everything that I find in terms of electronics. I take it all. I take any gold that's in it. I take it out. Um, in addition to that, I pick up vaporizer pieces and they have gold contacts in them. I pull those out. Anything else I can find electronics wise, sometimes they have gold contacts. I pull those out. And I've seen a method for turning all that into gold flake, where you flake off the gold over a process that takes anywhere from 2 weeks to 24 hours, depending on how you do it, how strong the reaction is that you're getting, and how much agitation that you produce. Now, I'm not going to be agitating it all that much, but I have been. And if you watch real close when I agitate this, you'll probably see that there is a bunch of gold in here. That is no joke. And a lot of it is actually pretty solid stuff. And then I have some CPUs in here. Like, look how much of that is just solid stuff, guys. There's a lot of material in there. My friends and I have been picking up vaporizer pieces. I started doing it, and when they saw me doing it, being that they're kind of cool, um, basically my three closest friends all started trying to find them too. Not going out separately looking for them, but keeping their eye open for them when they're out. The result of that is that between me and them, we found three vaporizers and must be about 50 of these guys. Now, in the end of these, they got two small gold contacts, and when they come out, they make the little tiny guys that you see in here. Right in there, you'll see a whole bunch of them. But this isn't about how I gather the gold. This is about, my point is, I gather from good sources. I gather from the kind of things where the gold is of good quality. If it's not, I don't take it. Um, but this is a method for producing gold flake, of flaking metal off of various things. Like, say you've got a whole bunch of gold plated contacts, and you want to extract the gold. Well, there's a method that is traditionally used that is chemical based. They all are. But this one is using very mild chemicals. Usually you would be using fairly strong acids to do that. And they are well known to be able to do that. You can use acid solution to separate the gold, then another acid solution to dissolve the gold, actually completely dissolve it, and suspend it in solution, which means you do like when you dissolve salt in warm water, you have suspended the salt in the solution. That's the easiest example I can give you. So in this case, I have salt suspended in solution, a lot of it. And the traditional method of this, they use hydrogen peroxide nowadays. A lot of people are showing this online that this works, and I wanted to see for myself because I'm doing gold recovery. I have a batch that's big enough to attempt this. I didn't get a chance to weigh the materials, but I know that I had right around 50 to 60 grams of material, and this is not a whole bunch of fingerboards. There's only two RAM sticks that I cut up, and it's only because the motherboards on them were packed with gold, and they had all kinds of gold dots, tons of tracers. And then on top of that, they had the nice chunky gold fingers. And so I cut those off separately, cut them up, put them in here, as well as the circuit boards. I cut them in half so they wouldn't take up as much room and stuck those in there. In addition to that, I know that I've found at least 30 of these individual types, and that gives me at least 60 of the pairs of contacts individually. So if there's 30 pairs, that means I have 60. And each of those is actually a pretty chunky little fella. And then there's these kind, also very common in vaporizer tips. And I pull out the ends, and inside they have two gold contacts. I actually don't have one to show you because they're all in the solution, baby. So in addition to that, when I take apart a computer, in the bigger box, I keep all of the gold contacts. I pull apart all the connectors very painstakingly and remove all the gold individually. That's a lot of hours of labor for a very small amount of gold. Most people wouldn't probably go to that much effort, but for me it's kind of a hobby and I'm just doing it. That being said, They say that if you get a vigorous enough reaction, it's all good, and that this will work, and that with very minimal reaction, you're getting, meaning you just put barely enough materials in to get the reaction, you can do this in a week or two. There's another method where I saw a guy do it in 24 hours, but he's using what he calls extreme agitation and suspension, which is exactly what it sounds like. He's agitating the fluid and the materials all the time with a bubbler, and he's stringing gold stringers out, basically makes a line, and then strings through it all of the ram sticks, and then suspends them in a fluid like this, using salt, hydrogen peroxide, and vinegar. So what I've done is I've used vinegar, et voila, regular table salt, and hydrogen peroxide. Now, I saw they were using 3%. I saw they were using 6%, and I was using 3%, so I figured, well, I better double the amount at least, or I won't get a good mixture. In addition, I used just enough vinegar to cover, which was the recommendation, and then I used a fair bit of hydrogen peroxide. I actually used about 4 times what was recommended for the volume of what I have here. And when I did that and added about twice the salt that's recommended, I got a much more vigorous reaction. Now, as one man pointed out in his video, as long as you have a beaker tall enough to accommodate the amount of foam that you're going to get from that extended reaction, from that increased reaction, you could safely, using these materials, increase the chemical reaction substantially, getting it done a lot faster. But he chose the extreme agitation type method. Okay, fair enough. I don't have the materials to do that. I do have the materials to do this. So I chose the other method, which is stirring occasionally. Basically every 20 minutes I start to agitate it. I agitate it for a few seconds, and then I let it settle. While I'm doing that, I look for gold flakes. I only just started this experiment about half an hour ago, and I've already seen the first of those gold flakes in there, it seems. So, but I did have a lot of loose, flaky kind of stuff. I mean, I had some gold that was pretty flaky. So it might just be some of those suspended. At this point, I'm not 100% sure, but it is too soon to tell. It has only been half an hour. I really shouldn't see anything. And yet, when I mixed my vinegar and hydrogen peroxide, everybody else is doing the vinegar, then the salt, then the hydrogen peroxide. I did not do that. I did the vinegar, then I put in my hydrogen peroxide, then I added the salt so I could see how much reaction I was getting, and I kept adding salt until I started to get foam on the surface, white. Any white on the surface, you stop, and it'll eventually look like this, because you'll have as vigorous a reaction as possible. At least that's my theory, and it seems to be holding out true, because I do have an incredibly vigorous reaction here. And as you can see, my gold is in suspension. We will see what happens. No, the gold is not in suspension. In suspension would mean that I have totally powdered it and it has become one with the liquid. We don't want that. All this process is going to do is flake off the gold. And you can see even on the glass, this is what surprised me. From some of those flakes, from some of these, as I was stirring it around, you can see the edges are coming off. This is absolutely getting rid of this material. You can see it here. There's the edges of these boards, and the liquid is slightly changed color, and it is going to get more green over time. But if I zoom in, you can see what I'm talking about right here on the edges of these boards. You can see that the material is coming off, which theoretically means inevitably I will get all of the gold off of that. Now, here's the real test. Over here, I have a whole bunch of solids. These are gold-plated objects that are very tough, very hard. Gold contacts, all kinds of stuff. Burner elements. I'm going to try and show you the bottom here, so you can see. It is packed. I have a lot of stuff on the bottom that's very small, but there's tons of it, relatively speaking anyway. And that is the vast bulk of this material. So, I don't know if it will flake that material, but it is absolutely taking the flake off of the circuit boards. And I can see that if I was just doing the circuit boards, well, we're going to see in this experiment. I will keep you guys updated on how long it actually takes to see this flake come completely off, because I've only agitated this a couple of times and been doing it for half an hour. and it's already looking like it's starting to come off. And I swear I've seen a few gold flakes. See that? The green in suspension? That's crap coming off the boards, which means it's absolutely theoretically working. No, it's now beyond theory. It is depopulating this board. Now it's just a matter of time to see how long it takes. And that's really interesting for me because up until this very moment, I really wasn't seeing anything for sure. And now I can decisively say, because I put that board in there and I've inspected it closely, I want to see the other edge. See the other edge? That's how it looked to start with. All green right out to the edge. And the fact that it's depopulating that way along the edge where I cut it says that this is working. And it's going to be doing something at least. So it does look like it's doing something. We'll see. Like I said, this is really too soon to tell, but already I am seeing some signs under magnification that this may very well be working. It is too early to tell. What I can say is I wanted to test this method and see if it really works. And so what I've done is I've put together a solution that is very high salinity and very high hydrogen peroxide content. It's like 30% of the total volume of this is hydrogen peroxide. And then once I got the foam, I added vinegar and doubled the amount of vinegar I had originally put in just to see if I would still get this nice vigorous reaction that I'm seeing. And I do, but I added the vinegar slowly. I added a little, I stirred it in, I checked for reaction to see if I was going to get a bubble up. And really I'm not, but I am seeing this constant white, which means over hours this may bubble up higher, and I will have to keep an eye on this for now, but I will keep you informed. Right now, the goal is to get the most vigorous reaction I can, so I'm going to show a stir, and you'll see if you can see anything that I don't see with my naked eye. Sometimes the camera sees way more than I would. And all I'm going to do is just stir it around for a few seconds. That's it. Boom. Agitated. Try and kind of level it out so it all sits kind of level and I don't have a big pile where everything's all clustered up on one. And then look carefully for flakes, which I really don't expect to see. But again, I am seeing the edges of these boards looking like they're starting to be affected by this already. Though I don't actually see any gold flake in suspension. But, like I said, that's way too soon to tell. I shouldn't see that for quite a while. And I could have swore I just saw something there. But that could just be reflection. But, I don't know. We'll see. So, I'm Keith. I'm suspicious. And I wanted to find out if this was real because I'm doing gold recovery, so it definitely applies to me. And it's a method that doesn't require any license, that is chemically safe, and I'm doing it. That being said, I'll keep you updated. Keith out.